to the logo on my chest and tell them, Slam the ego, Slam the ego, Slam the ego, Slam the ay. Hit it up hard, hit it with a strike. From the national anthem to the bottom of the night. I'm in Slam the ego, Slam the ego, Slam the ego, Slam the ay. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. We should know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Talking Friars here on this Sunday afternoon. Apologies, I just realized I misspelled Cardinals and just put Cardinal up there on the screen, but we'll deal with that today, whatever. Anyway, Padres, they did knock off the St. Louis Cardinals, and there were really some encouraging things. Post-deadline, first series post-deadline, and kind of wondering, like, all right, what are we going to get from Dylan Cease, which ended up being pretty darn good today, so that was a good sign. I know he didn't go 7 innings, but if you can get that Dylan Cease, like, that's helping you win baseball games, not making it harder for you to win baseball games. Then late in the game, the bullpen obviously makes it harder to win the baseball game, but the offense did its job for sure. And, you know, when you add some of that thump, like Ramon Laureano homers and Jackson Merrill looks like he's back, it gives you a little bit more of that room because the bullpen has been great this season, and it's not going to be great every single time out. In a 7-0 game, did I like that Adrian Morejon was on the mound? No, I did not. I don't think that Adrian Morejon should have even been in this game. I know that Schilt would probably say, like, he needed some work. He hadn't pitched, because let me double-check the bullpen chart. Yeah, Morejon, he had at least 4 days off. So the argument there is, like, we got to get him into a game. Even if it's 7-0, we got to get him into a game. And so that was probably the plan, regardless of what the score was today, was so that he could be in there. But Morejon has been pitching pretty darn consistently this season. And I don't think one more day when you have a 7-0 lead, I don't think that's going to kill him. Should he have been better? Yeah. But still, I'm just not the biggest fan of that decision. When you had someone like Wandy Peralta or Yuki Matsui, who definitely could have went today. Peralta threw 8 pitches yesterday. Matsui threw 16 yesterday. Like, they can go back-to-back days, and then you have all of your guys available. And Morejon, you could make him go tomorrow when you're facing, by the way, the D-backs, a divisional opponent. And that game's probably not going to be 7-0. I'd love it to be, but it's probably not going to be that. So just throwing that out there. Easy for me to say, obviously, after the game, but I was thinking the same thing when it was happening. So you can choose to believe me or not. I think there's other Padres fans that would say the same thing about Morejon and why was he in this game. But what matters the most is the Padres won this game. I'm not freaking out about Morejon. I know he struggled. Robert Suarez as well did give up. Now, it wasn't the earned, that was Morejon's run, but there was some hard contact, including that last out where it was smoked at him and he had the glove caught it maybe. But what I care about is they won the game and they won the series. You do that consistently, you're going to be in the postseason. You're going to be playing really good baseball, and you're going to have a shot to go win the whole thing. So, what I would say about the new guys, the new performers, if you will, for this team, very encouraged. Nestor Cortez was called up or activated, I guess. And so I think he's going to be pitching tomorrow in that D-back series. So Randy Vasquez he was the one that was sent down. And it's really a numbers game. Like, and Michael King's not even back yet, but just look at the rotation. You've got Pivetta, you've got Cease, you've got Darvish, and then you've got JP Sears, and then Nestor Cortez. Like, we wanted these additions, wanted that starting pitching help, at least I did. There's going to be some tough decisions that have to be made there. And like Randy Vasquez, they're not having him go 3 times through the order. They're not having him go 5 innings, most outings, it seems like. And there's a lot of no decisions, and it's not all his fault. Like, I think he's actually done a pretty darn good job for a back-end starter for the Padres this season, keeping the Padres in games, and even better than that in some of these outings. So I don't think it's a reflection on Randy. I think it's more just the numbers game. Like, you acquire Nestor Cortez when he's healthy, like, that guy can not just keep you in games. He could be a big reason why. He's your 5 starter. And then when Michael King comes back, what is Cortez, what's going to happen there? So, yeah, it's a good problem to have for sure. Now, the other guys on offense, so Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano. Ryan O'Hearn, there's not like a ton for me to really talk about with him in this series. Really, for me, it's Fermin and then Laureano. Fermin, already seeing the impact in today's game. Bottom of the order, but he goes 2 for 3. As the 9-hitter, he's going 2 for 3. He scored a run. I mean, I'm taking that over Elias Diaz hitting 9th. I'm taking that for sure over Martin Maldonado hitting 9th. Fermin yesterday, 1 for 4, drove in a couple of runs. Like, I know Diaz was doing that a little bit before the deadline, and it was like, yeah, good for him. But is that what he was going to be consistently? So we wanted the upgrade. It's a little bit of an upgrade offensively, I would say. Now, I still questioned. I was just surprised, and I still kind of am, that they acquired Fermin, just because there was all this talk about, oh, we value what Maldonado and Elias Diaz bring to this group. I know Diaz still brings it, obviously, but Maldonado gone. Not saying Padres fans are mad about that, but you hear Mike Schilt all the time, like, praising these catchers and prioritizing the defense over the offense, and like, one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. The catchers deserve a lot of credit for that. So I just wasn't, and I wasn't hearing much. We weren't reading much, right, about the Padres looking at certain catchers. It was Jaron Duran talk. It was pitching talk, right? Some other left field talk, but it wasn't the catching position. And Fermin was not even on the radar. Like, that's just one of those things that Preller does, right? There's all these names that get leaked out, but we don't acquire those guys. It ends up being someone that, to be quite honest, I think I'd heard of Fermin before, but I wouldn't have been able to tell you, like, uh, probably the team, and then how many games he had played, like any ballpark of games that he had played. So yeah, I don't think maybe he speaks English behind closed doors, but he's, from what I've seen, he's using the translator. So there is that communication there as well with other pitchers, like American pitchers. Like, what does that look like? But he's dealt with it before, obviously, and he's had success at the big league level. So probably shouldn't be that much of a question. Ramon Laureano, today he ends up homering to the opposite field. Like, no disrespect to Bryce Johnson, but he is not doing that. And Bryce Johnson was getting some starts before the deadline. Now, Gavin Sheets wasn't even in this lineup, and like that, it was a 7-0 game, so like they weren't using him. But to have that be a possibility, today, for example, you have O'Hearn at first, and then you can DH Luis Arraez, taller target at first base than Arraez, and you can have Sheets coming off the bench. You've got Laureano in left field over Gavin Sheets or over Bryce Johnson. It just, the depth of this team improves. Just the overall performance of this team, this lineup, this offense, probably the defense too. It just improves. So, one series, I get it. It's against a losing team in the Cardinals, 56-57 they are after today's loss. But we can't, like, change the schedule. They play who's on their schedule. So coming up, though, are going to be good tests. You've got, after the D-backs, I think it's the Red Sox, and then there's those Dodger series that, personally, I have not been waiting on, because those series, they just take a lot out of you, even as a fan. But it will be interesting, and I will be probably hyped up for it for sure once it comes around, to see this Padres team against that Dodger team, now with this being the Padres team. We'll see about Michael King. I think he was scheduled to make a rehab start today. Joe Musgrove, by the way, he posted a video on Instagram of him throwing his first bullpen session, and it looked like it's pretty intense. So he probably would say it wasn't, but just from the eye, it didn't look like he was really holding back. So that's good news. By the way, it's JP Sears that will start for the Padres on Monday, not Nestor Cortez. So we'll see when Cortez ends up pitching. Yeah, Dylan Cease coming in today, obviously, like that's very encouraging. Preller did say, I'm not quoting him, but after the deadline, doesn't end up trading Cease, so he goes with, yeah, the best version of the Padres is with Dylan Cease on it. And part of that is true. I just doubt what he's going to do in the big moments against the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. Like, how is that going to look? How long of a leash will he get? It's one thing to do it against the Cardinals here on a Sunday afternoon after they were just sellers at the deadline. Can you do it consistently now and be like that $200 million starter that the money that you want in free agency? So that's really what I got there on Cease. But Laureano, like him today, and then he went 1 for 4, drove in a run, scored a run yesterday. Yeah, he's going to be getting the majority of the starts in left field. The guy, I love his mentality. I don't know if you guys saw his first media scrum with the Padres before, was that Friday's game? I want to say it was Friday's game. And he's asked these, the simple like questions after the deadline when you're acquired and what do you want to do? What can you bring? And I'm not quoting him, but essentially he said, what can you expect out of me? A human being that is going to go help win baseball games. And like it was short answers. He was being serious most of the time. Just all business. And so love that. I'm seeing some people comment on social media. They were like, yeah, him and Bogarts are going to get along great because both of them are pretty straight shooters. Straight to the point, care about winning. So I could definitely see that too. But yeah, that outfield, the arms that outfield has with Laureano and Merrill and Tatis, those third base coaches around baseball, ooh, they're probably going to be a little hesitant to windmill that arm, I'd say, which is great for us. And then the opposite field power, and it's not just that, but you go look at the numbers when the Padres acquired Laureano, and you're like, dang, I didn't realize he was having that good of a season. And by the way, I actually didn't forget how to spell Cardinals. My logo is just covering the S. Anyway, I just noticed that. But just over these 3 games against the Cardinals, just the main takeaway is it's clear this is a better team. And it's clear that this team is now much better ready, prepared to take on a team like the Dodgers, to take on the other NL contenders. They just are. You got to have the offense. And there's the possible offense from the 9-hitter. Crony with a home run today, hitting bottom of the order. There's possible offense from now every single guy in this order. Every single guy. Tatis, yes. Arise, Manny, Merrill, Bogarts, O'Hearn, Laureano, Crony, Fermin. Every single guy. You take O'Hearn out and you put Sheets in, there's possible offense there. Where you had Martin Maldonado in there, and a lot of people would say that's not possible offense. I mean, it would happen every once in a while, but not really. You have Bryce Johnson in there, can't put him in that category that these other guys are. So Tyler Wade, I would say same thing. So yeah, AJ, so far, this, I know it's one series in, and this is totally overreaction Sunday right here, but looking like a pretty darn good deadline for sure. So a 7-3 win today. We know that should have been more 7-0, but is what it is. All I care is they won the game. Yesterday, losing 8-5, that one, there was a lot of swings and misses on this. A lot of swings and misses. And that was the same thing for the Cardinals today. So they like swapped roles on that. Yeah, 8-5 loss yesterday. Vasquez, 4 innings, 5 earned runs, didn't walk anyone, but there was definitely some hard contact, some pitches that were left over. So him now being like, if he would have performed really well, would they have still sent him down? I feel like they would have. So I don't want to overreact to that outing yesterday and be like, yeah, that's why he's out. That's why he's in AAA. Nestor Cortez was coming in. And you acquire Nestor Cortez, you're going to give him that shot out of the gate here. Other than that, it was one of those where the offense just it started off great, 4-0 lead, and then you give it right back just like that. It's 4-4, and then there's nothing after that. So they scored 8 unanswered runs. That's rough. That is tough. That's one of those where you're like, yeah, probably should have won that game when you're out to a 4-0 lead. Now, there were positives still, like Jackson Merrill homering, Laureano tripling in the second. Manny continues to be Manny. If it was a second half award, Manny would definitely be an MVP candidate, but that's not the way it is. Yeah, I don't have much to add after that. Like McGreevy actually pitched pretty darn good, I would say. 6 innings out of him. And then they had a couple of relievers who were throwing up a lot of breaking balls there, and the Padres were not making contact. But again, like overall, you take 2 out of 3. I'm going to be happy, move on, and just keep doing that consistently, and you will be in the postseason. A win on Friday night, 4-1. There was the Contreras homer, but then after that, it was all Padres. Contreras also helped with that terrible throw from first base. He was trying to throw it to third. He almost nailed his pitcher in the head and then almost took out another guy. And then it finally got to Scott at third base, who was running over there, and got past him, and Crony scored. And then Elias Diaz comes through. Merrill comes through. Merrill was the MVP of this series, I feel like, offensively for the Padres, coming through in every game in some fashion. And if they get, I was tweeting this earlier today, like Jackson Merrill, they got the Rookie of the Year. Jackson Merrill should have been Rookie of the Year. Jackson Merrill at the deadline too. What a deadline for Preller, because this series looked way more like the Merrill that we saw. Someone that's coming up in clutch situations, bases clearing hits. Obviously, it looks way better when he produces. Like his energy and his at bats, like they're going to look better. But I don't know. It just did. That's all really. Like we know he's going to bring it defensively. Offensively, I thought that he was just getting outside of himself. He was expanding the zone too much. Pitches that were, I'm pretty sure it was high and in that he was swinging at too much. And they just got to him. Opposing pitchers and those teams, they have game plans. And they have guys that their job is to look at the opponent and see how can we get this person out. And that's tough at the big leagues when you're Jackson and you got these great pitchers anyway, and you had a great first season, and then you're just pissed off at yourself all the time, is what it seems like this year, because it's not happening this year. But you have to make it. It's a game of adjustments, and I know it's against the Cardinals. Like we'll see what happens here in a week or so, but what I'd say is that was the real Jackson Merrill. I hope that we saw there this weekend. And if that's the case, then that's like a trade deadline addition, because the Jackson Merrill that they did have was not the same guy offensively. That was not a guy where you were like, yeah, I'm loving watching this guy hit right now, watching his at bats. Just wasn't the case. And if he was a fan, he'd agree the same way. Like, no, I suck. That was not fun. I wouldn't want to watch me, you know? So yeah, um, Merrill back, that would be so huge. Because then if you look at the lineup, you've got Merrill as today he was the 4 hitter. If you can get 850 OPS Jackson Merrill, 800 OPS Jackson Merrill instead of 742 OPS, and that's included with what he did this weekend, by the way, for the season. But if you get that as the 4 hitter, Tatis will get on base. Arise will get on base. Manny, the way that he's swinging, like we know he'll get on base. There's gonna be a lot of opportunities there for him to do some damage and elevate those numbers pretty quick. All right. Before getting to the chat, I do want to give a shout out to the great partners of the show. Gaglione and Bros Famous Cheesesteaks and Garlic Fries. Their main location is on Friars Road. You can check them out at Petco Park and Snapdragon Stadium as well. At Snap, they are on the east side of the stadium. And at Petco, they're down the third baseline and then in the upper deck. Down the first baseline, upper deck, if that makes sense. Best Philly cheesesteaks in San Diego. They've got garlic fries, cheesesteak fries as well. The full menu, obviously, at that Friars Road location. And then they've got a sampling of that at Petco and at Snapdragon. So make sure you check them out. Breaking Tea, they've got your Padres and Aztec shirts and sweatshirts. Padres graphic tees, player tees. They just released that Manny Machado one. Like that has been flying off the digital shelves, if you will. I know that one's been really popular. So if you want that, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can click the link in the description and you will see what I'm talking about there when you go to the Padres page, the Padres section there. But yeah, they have a ton of players: Darvish, Tatis, Crony. They have like group ones as well. They had a 4 Horsemen one, but might have to change that. They already have a Mason Miller shirt as well. Mason Miller is someone that I wanted to mention. I know I already mentioned him on Friday after that game, but throwing 103 that night and you know being a guy where Jason Adam doesn't even have to pitch because you have Nick Pivetta who shoves, and then you can rest that, and then you don't know what's going to happen the next day, the next couple of days, and so maybe Adam can go 4 outs in a situation because he didn't have to pitch on Friday because you have Mason Miller and you have Robert Torres and you had a really good starting pitching performance. But yeah, with Mason Miller, like, is he going to be the most efficient sometimes? Maybe not. But anyone that has 103 and, has dominated hitters like he has already in Major League Baseball, I'm going to welcome him on this team. It was sad seeing Leo DeVries, his posts on Instagram about, like, kind of being speechless, doesn't know what to say, but, like, thank you to Padres fans. That sucked. Like, that, because that's the guy that we were all thinking, yeah, this is going to be shortstop of the future, no doubt. And then he gets traded for a reliever and, back end rotation starter. And you're like, well, this better work out, AJ. I do like that Sears and Mason Miller are under control. And for a team that's trying to win right now, and I am a Padres fan, like, I wasn't watching DeVries every night, in the minor leagues. I'm watching the big league team. And that's what I ultimately care about. I just feel like DeVries would really help this big league team here in the future. But this team has chances every year to go win, it seems like. And this is Preller greatening those chances and knowing what the postseason is about with the pitching and being like, let's go get 2 of these guys. Who knows what Sears, his role would be, but let's go get these guys. You add Mason Miller to this pen and just keep stacking this, making it a super pen. Offenses are not going to be happy come October when they have to face the Padres. And a little bit less pressure, I'd say, on the offense. You can really shorten games if these guys are on their game. And to shorten postseason games, because those postseason games feel like a long time. But when you've got dominant relievers and a starter can go 5 innings and when that happens, other teams, you might be like, "Ooh, that 4 innings, that's a lot." With the Padres, though, we may be looking at that and be like, "Nope, starting pitcher did his job. Let's go." 4 innings, that's so awesome. Like, you need, your big 5 guys, if those are who pitches, you're gonna need those guys to be on. But again, like, they improve the offense too, so it's I don't wanna say balances out, but, like, I know the bullpen's not gonna everyone in the bullpen's not gonna be pitching great every day, but you have an improved offense, and so hopefully there's more runs scored. You can have Jackson Merrill, being better, and that's how it kinda can balance out, if that makes sense. Any just checking social media real quick. Okay. I'm seeing Michael King in his rehab gave up a couple of runs, but had 5 whiffs, 2 strikeouts in his first rehab inning. Averaged 93.1 on his fastball. I'm just seeing that update from Too Much Morton's on Twitter. I don't know if King is pitching still right now. I would think if they're sending him out for a rehab outing, that he'd be going more than just 1 inning, right? If you're gonna go 1 inning, you could do it here against, some live hitters. Is it San Antonio that he's Yeah, I think it's San Antonio. San Antonio's playing right now. It's the 3rd inning. No, not San Antonio. The El Paso? At Round Rock. Yeah. Okay, so Michael King, yep. He has gone 2 innings as of now. 2 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. He did give up a home run. I don't really care about the results. I care more about, like, velocity. And what's the pitch count? Right now he's at 37 pitches. He's done, by the way, because is that Carl Edwards Jr.? No. That's the other team. Sorry. He might be done. Don't know. Right now he's at 2 innings. Last sponsor, SeatGeek. Code Talking Friars, $20 off your first order when you sign up with your email address, Padres. They're on the road for 3 games at the D-backs coming up here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then they will be back home to face off against the Red Sox, who had a very disappointing trade deadline, if you ask their fan base. And their fan base, not big fans of their GM. Our fan base, much bigger fans of our GM. So, like, we could be in the Red Sox situation. I know you could say, well, they have a bunch of World Series, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the current situation, trading Rafael Devers, and then you get Steven Matz and Dustin May at the deadline. Like, that's that. Did they really go all in on getting a starting pitcher like Joe Ryan? Don't know. Yeah, they kept Duran, obviously. So we'll see what they look like, but that's up. That's going on next weekend. Just a quick update, by the way, as well, around San Diego sports. San Diego FC, they're not playing regular season right now. They are in Leagues Cup. They lost, right? I'm trying to find. Yeah, they played Friday night. They lost 2-1 to Tigres. They lost 3-2 to Pachuca. So those are the first 2 of 3 in Leagues Cup. Do I really care about Leagues Cup? No. Would I be saying something different if they were winning these games? Maybe. But like Chucky wasn't starting this last match. I know that a lot of the guys they do have to play, because it's not like they have this academy that they can go lean on in these games. But really, when you're in first in MLS standings, I'm sorry, me caring about Leagues Cup, that's just not gonna be on my priority list. These games are starting at 8 o'clock at night, and as a new team, first year in the league, it would be one thing if they weren't going to make the postseason, and it's like this is the opportunity to win something. They've got uh, a much bigger prize to be eyeing right now, which isn't just the regular season title, but obviously MLS Cup as well. So not the end of the world there. San Diego Wave, they drew with North Carolina, and they'll be back at home against Angel City coming up this weekend. So always love a great rivalry match there. Let's see here. Go into the chat. Should have kept Morgan in the ninth. Well, how many pitches was he at? He was already at 26 pitches, and he threw 19 yesterday. So I disagree with that. What I would agree with is someone other than Morahone pitching in a 7-0 game. I would have went with Wandy or Matsui, but that's just me. EB says every Padres fan is all wet over the recent trades. It's going to be even funnier once these so-called fans start taking mess about the whole season, and the optimism gets squashed. Okay. We're just reacting to what's happening. The trades so far, the big league pieces they've gotten back are helping this team win games. So sorry if we're overreacting to that. That's a Dodger fan anyway, but thanks for tuning in. Our pitching is basically best in the league. Starting is a bit less than bullpen, but still good. Yeah, you can make that case. For sure. Definitely the bullpen. And then the starting pitching, like, it has the potential to be, I feel like. There are other teams that would have some things to say about that, but it's a strong pitching staff for sure. Please remember the Padres have one of the lightest schedules for the rest of the season. This is not a true test yet. The schedule's the schedule. Like, I care if they win baseball games and they're playing good baseball. These are other Major League Baseball teams, so it is what it is. More like couldn't trade Cease. No team wanted him, same as Suarez. I disagree with that. You're telling me no team wanted Dylan Cease? The Padres just probably had a good sized price on those guys because those guys have the potential to be significant reasons why they win. Definitely Robert Suarez in that bullpen as the closer still. So, and I'm fine with that. Like I said the other night, Suarez, like, this is where he's comfortable. It's his role. He knows it. Mason Miller, he's the one that's coming in. And sometimes the save isn't in the ninth inning. Sometimes it's in the eighth or the seventh. And so he could actually be more valuable in that situation than if he were stuck in the ninth inning. My thoughts on Vasquez being demoted, even though Adrian and Estrada struggled too. Well, Vasquez isn't a reliever; he's a starter. So those two things are different. And they're not going to send down Adrian. They're not going to send down Estrada. Those are two of your big five in this bullpen. So yeah, that's really that. And it wasn't really, like I said earlier, it wasn't really about Vasquez. It was more Nestor Cortez is coming in. Let's see what this guy's going to do. Because when he's healthy, like, he's a pretty darn good pitcher. Let me pull up his numbers, actually. Nestor Cortez. Like, this year, it's a couple of outings. Like, I'm not looking at that. But last year, 31 starts, sub-4 ERA. Year before that, only 12 starts. But when he had 28 starts back in 22, he was an all-star, sub-2.5 ERA. Year before that, sub-3 ERA. Like, this guy can be an above-average big league pitcher when he's on the mound for you. Albert with the super chat. Thanks for the content, Ben. Thank you guys. Much appreciated. Yeah, those super chats are very appreciated because I was like switched over to Riverside, that platform. The audio wasn't great for you guys. The overlay as well, like I couldn't really figure that out. So I switched back to StreamYard, and so I'm paying $45 a month so that the audio is going to work, so that the visuals are the way that people are used to them. So much appreciated. Carlos asks, "Are the Padres winning the West? I want to screenshot receipts." If I had to give you, I would still say no at this point because I need to see it, but they have that chance to for sure. They can do it. Can they play better when they go head to head against the Dodgers? And I think they're better set up for that. Carlos says, "I don't get all the hate on Robert Suarez." Yeah, I'm kind of in that boat too. I'm not saying the whole fan base is hating him, but I do see it sometimes, and I'm like, let's look at the large sample size here. He's not going to be great every time out, but most of the time he gets the job done. And I just go back to last year where there was a bunch of questions about him. Obviously, he was really struggling, and the confidence level wasn't high in this guy. And then it came through in October. Like, so I just have that in the back of my head. So yeah, you won't find me, hating Robert Suarez here, putting hate on Robert Suarez here on August 3rd. Still leads the league in saves, I think. Got to be doing something right. Next Gen Break says, "I never liked Tatis leading off with his down offensive numbers ever since April. I would rather have a rise back up at the top. Also, Laureano needs to be moved up." I personally would still like Tatis to be leading off. Just what he can do with his legs, and he has the power. Like I'm, I want that possibility of him being on base for a contact hitter like Arise instead of the other way around. Um, and like if I'm the opponent, would I rather face Tatis to start a game or Arise? I feel like Tatis is the more terrifying at bat. Like you want to do what the opponent doesn't want you to do. And then Laureano needs to be moved up. So where would he be moved up? Would you swap him and Bogarts? That's definitely a possibility. I feel like once we get this sample size of him in a Padre uniform, but Schilt's gonna believe in his guy in Bogarts, until it's like smashing him in the face that these guys should switch spots or something. Because Bogarts is actually having a pretty good year. I should say like recently he's doing pretty darn well. In the month of June, he had a 290 average. In the month of July, he had a 295 average. And then so far this year in 11 games, he's hitting 364. I get it, averages and everything, but I'm just spitting that out there. And just so you know, like the Padres are seeing that, and they're probably not having the same thought as you. JD's third with a super chat. "When will the lineup have consistent offense? You would think the trades would provide energy. 1 for 7 today with runners in scoring position. When will they have consistent offense?" Well, I would say thank you for the super chat, by the way. Always appreciated. I think the consistent offense question, I think that's maybe you're talking about like the other players as well, but to ask it after 3 games, and by the way, they scored 7 runs today. They scored 5 yesterday. They scored 4. Usually when you score 4 runs, the Padres are going to win the baseball game. So, and they won 2 out of 3 in this series. So, as for like the series since these acquisitions, like they were scoring runs in this series. They were putting it up. So, and I do think that these guys are providing energy. I know 1 for 7 today with runners in scoring position isn't great, but like, for example, Merrill drives in 3 runs. That is one opportunity to drive in runs with runners in scoring position, and he drove in 3 there. So I don't really like care what it looks like. I care that it's executed that way when that opportunity comes up, right? So bottom line, like, did they win a baseball game? They found a way to win a baseball game. Carlos says F. Oh, never mind. Well, I got to read it because it's a super chat, but it says F the Padres, go Dodgers. Thank you for spending money on a Padres show when you're a Dodger fan. I'd never do that the other way around, but appreciate you. Who do you think is going to be more valuable, starting pitcher Nestor Cortez or JP Sears? My gut says Sears, but I think that's kind of clouded by haven't seen JP Sears, or excuse me, haven't seen Nestor Cortez be the 2022 Nestor Cortez in a little bit. He's dealt with injuries, like just haven't seen him a ton. Yes, Campy was catching Michael King today. Alrighty, that's going to do it. Talking Friars here on a Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Thank you all for the time. Much appreciated. Take 2 out of 3 here from the Cardinals. Great start, I would say. They could have swept, so maybe not great start. Should probably change that to pretty darn good start after this trade deadline. The Padres, they're a better team. I thought that once that deadline happened, and then, this series is only proving that so far. It's one series. It's not against a great team. So I know this is overreactionary here. Is that a word? But it's all we can do right now.